Western civilization was initiated by the defeat of the Moorish kingdom in Europe and world exploration using Moorish technology by way of the Crusades is what brought Western civilization into the world. The destruction of the indigenous people, or the near destruction of the indigenous people of the Americas, the enslavement of African people, and it is the same people that taught them how to get on the water and come to America are the very same people that they enslaved, so that those that were enslaved were forbidden to read and to learn, to ever learn that they were the ones that allowed them to create the civilization that they are flourishing from. This American hemisphere was built by Africans on the back of the Moorish information that was given to them in Europe, that was brought by enslaved to America, and we built this country. And so as we move through this process, we come to understand exactly what happened. So in other words, to help us understand who the Moors were and exactly what happened during history at this time for this to be able to be made possible. And so with this understanding of who the Moors were before the Moors, to understand that the Moors were already in the Mediterranean basin long before 711, long before 711 to 1492. The Western civilization had already been created. The cities that would become in Europe, they were already existing in Cordoba, in Malaga, in Seville. They already existed. And as you go through and you see these cities and understand the Alhambra and all that they created, you get to understand. See, this is the history that's being left out. America, and we, Western civilization.
Shalom. I like to say all praises due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors, parcel of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the elect. My name's Conwalk from Great Millstone, Toronto, doing this lesson. And it's going to be in regard to the Moors and the Amalekites that are portraying to be Moors. Right? I'm going to just play it quick. 1 second.
Grand Rising, guys and goddesses, and as we were saying our native tongue, Pake Teko, man. Look at this. Look at the picture, man. Jews acting like Moors. I'm saying, though, why everybody want to be a Moor in hidden, though? In hidden world, everybody want to be a Moor, but in public, don't nobody want to be a Moor. Everybody want to make it look like the Moors did this, etc., etc. But the Jews are acting like Moors because the code word for Jewish is Moorish or Moor. You see what I'm saying? The Jewel are Moors, meaning hearts of Allah. The Quraysh from the court. The Jews, the priests of Anu. Why you think the Jews run everything right now? Because they portraying to be the Moors. Trying to portray to be the Moors. They wearing our vases, look, in the synagogue. They're not the Moors. They're not the real jewels of Allah. No, they're not. That's why Allah said, woe unto those who claim themselves as Jews and they are not. They're portraying to be Moors inside their synagogue, which is inaccurate, injustice, and you keeping a secret from the people. And eventually, truth gonna subjugate the whole world, man, because in a minute, everybody gonna make that full circle right back at a Moor door. Because at the end of the day, the Moors civilized the world. The Jews know it, the Chinese know it, Russian know it, Chinese know it, Asian know it, Indian know it, everybody know it but you. Over here in Northwest Maximum in the Northwest Hemisphere. We the only ones that don't know. And we all, like I said, got to make a public entry to show some form of inheritance of our interest in our inheritance. So let that sink in, man. This is what's going on. All is being entry, trying to.
So yeah, man. So with this is, this guy, he's on point, all right. And the word "more" in Spanish, it means love, and basically in the Latin, more just means dark or black, right? Basically these people is stealing our people's heritage, their because we lost our heritage, because that was in Jeremiah that we're gonna lose our heritage. But these Edomites is taking our customs, right? And like, and they wanna be Moors, right? Like, like they wanna be Israelites, like they wanna be our people, right? Because because the Moors, they had a lot of power, right, all throughout the earth. And with the whole crusades and stuff, it was the Moors, because a lot of them was into that whole Islam, right? And not all of them were Muslim. Some of them were Israelites. Some of them were Jews as well, right? That were um in the Moorish kingdom in Spain and Portugal, in the Iberian Peninsula, right? That established a lot of these cities, right? When you read about, very good book to get, right? I'm just gonna tell you, The Golden Age of the Moor by Ivan Serdama, right? Very good historian, right? And very good book to get, right? And also African Presence in Early Europe, African Presence in Early Europe by Ivan Serdama, the same author. Very good book, right? You could do your own research as well, right? And then Nature Knows No Color Line, Nature Knows No Color Line by J.A. Rogers, right? Which they were historians, and they were going into, the Israelites that was in Europe, right? That basically civilized these damn Edomites. Because let's get the precept. I will get the precept. Salakia. Revelation. Revelation 20. And I started at 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, right? The angel is Yahweh Shai, right? Because he's the one that sets up kingdoms, right? That goes into, I will get it after. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit. So the bottomless pit is Europe, right? Because doesn't doesn't have certain minerals, certain resources, right? And the pit is Europe, right? And a great chain in his hand, right? So like the chain is going into subjection, into slavery, into servitude. And he laid hold on the dragon, right? The dragon is the Roman Empire, right? The pagan Roman Empire that the Edomites has set up, right? When you read about the different Caesars, when you read about the different Caesars of Rome, all of the, that they were Edomites, right? And they had a major stronghold throughout Italy, throughout Asia Minor, throughout the land of Israel, right? A great influence from the like from the west, and then going into Carthage, going into like North Africa, right? Because that's what, because those were places where the Hamites were dwelling, the Canaanites and the Hamites, and Israelites was dwelling there, right? So the dragon, right, which is the Roman Empire, right? That old serpent, right? The serpent was referring to the the diviner, right? Which was a man that deceived Eve, and then Adam followed after his wife, and learned he learned a lot of things, right? He learned because remember the serpent beguiled Eve, right? He said, eat of the tree, and you shall live. You're not gonna die, right? And basically that's what happened, right? Because we eventually fell, right? Adam went off, right? And then and like that's why, like, we lost the tree of life, right? So like that's the damn pussy wall, you know, the damn the serpent, which is you damn Edomites, man, which is the devil. So it's devil, right? It just means it means adversary. Sorry, like the devil, it just means it means deceiver, and Satan, right? It just means adversary, somebody who's adverse, right? And that's and like that's how these Edomites are, and bound him 1,000 years, right? So after, when the Roman Empire fell, right, the Israelites came up to power, right? When you read about the five good emperors, was Jake that was fighting for power of to obtain power in the Roman Empire, which is known as the Holy Roman Empire eventually. And basically you had Septimius Severus, and Severus just means cutter of seven, right? He defeated these different emperors, right? And basically he reigned. And then you had the Council of Nicaea, which was by Constantine the Great, right? That established the whole Roman Catholic Church, right? And basically like they set up the churches throughout Europe, right? And because they were nothing but pagan worshippers, right? They had they have like the images of the Lord and stuff, but they're in secret. They're really worshiping, like Semiramis, Tammuz. They're doing all kinds of things in the dark, right? But they try to act like they're angels of light, right? And that was going on. And then you had the Crusades, right? That Jake was fighting for power, right? Because you had the damn Ishmaelites that was in our land. Because then 70 AD, the Israelites left, right? Because fleeing from Roman persecution. A very good book to get to is From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor, right? From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor. Very good book. And basically, page 84, it says, I will get it. Let me just read it quick. From Babylon to Timbuktu, right? Yeah, 1 second. Page 84. It says, in the year 65 BCE or BC, before Christ, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian, right, so these were Edomite generals, and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with a great slaughter, right? So they persecuted like the Jews, right? And a lot of people had to flee. A lot of our people went into Africa, right? Fleeing from Roman persecution. They went to like Egypt. Then they some of them went like the east side of Africa, and then eventually a whole bulk of them went throughout this like the Sahara, North Africa, and then going into the West Africa. Right. So it says Titus put an end to the Jewish state with a great slaughter, putting during the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. Right. So our people was being a lot of people was being put into slavery, right, in the Roman Empire. All right, a lot of the men, they went they went to servitude under the Roman Empire, and that's why some of our people went into the gladiator games, right? Very good movie to get to is The Gladiator by Russell Crowe. Very good, and that was us, right? And also very good TV series too. It's called Spartacus, Blood on the Sand. Very good series. And it shows you those were Jake, right? That was fighting to obtain freedom from the Roman power. so they had to fight. A lot of them died. You know, it was brutal, man. It says, during the period of military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. By the resident of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it was been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery, and that's what happened, right? The Lord, he prophesied, right? Because because the Lord, he prophesied that I'm going to read it. The Lord, he prophesied, right, of Jacob's trouble, because basically like that was Jacob's trouble back then, right, 70 AD, and we are approaching Jacob's trouble here in 2026, man. So Matthew 24:15, that says perilous times, right? When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. So basically that was going into the abomination of desolation is going into what's the guy's name? The Greek, right? That Hellenized our people. One second. One moment. Go into the Apocrypha quick. 1 second. One moment. First Maccabees 1. Right. So First Maccabees 1 and 1. So this is this is going into abomination of desolation, and that was like when the Lord, like that was many years, like before the Lord was on the scene, right? So our people was being Hellenized, right? So First Maccabees, you could read the whole chapter, but I'm just going to go into this. And there came up, well, I started at First Maccabees 1. You could read about Alexander, right? But this is going to go about Antiochus Epiphanes, right? So, and there came, First Maccabees 1 and 10, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks, right? So that was 137 BC, right? All right, and basically, so it's like, so we're gonna read about, and this were Edomite general, because after when Alexander the Great died, his kingdom was split by his 4 generals, right? And they basically, the kingdom was split. Some of them went into Egypt, some of them went into over there, over like the the Seleucid dynasty that was in like the whole Syria, the land of Israel. All right, and then Pompey, I already said that. So then you had like and then you had like 2 other generals that were under Alexander when Alexander died, right? It says in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us make a covenant let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about. For since we departed from them, we had much sorrow. And that was going on back then. And our people doing the same thing, known as the Boule. These so-called Greek secret societies that our people follow, and these different fraternal and the different damn like fraternities or frats that our people are part of, right? And then eventually, because like that's why a lot of these high school and stuff, they have to, like, they call it hazing. They have to do all kinds of things to try to like that to be accepted, right? It's nothing but abomination, man. And the Lord's not pleased with our people, man. All right. So it says, so this device pleased them well, for then certain of the people were so forward that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance. Like that's what's going on. There are the government back then and now they're doing the same thing, right? Saying that, that like now here in like modern times, they're saying, let's give you a 501c3 charter, or give you this and that. Like everything that you have to do in this man's society, you have to have a license, right? So he's in control, right? So the certain people were so forward, so they're proud that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen, right? Were unto they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the custom of the heathen, right? And like that's why the gym, it just means naked, right? Gymnos, right? And our people was butt naked, man, during that time, right? And it's still like that now, right? When you go to the gym, these women, like, they have the pussy print, right? Their breasts, their ass. The men, right, wearing shorts, they have their dick out, like, like their dick print and all this shit, man. Their muscles and all this shit, man. Right? You're not supposed to look on another man's nakedness. You're not supposed to wear shorts and all this stuff. Especially when you're prophesying, right? It says, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. That's what happened. They're called, like, they were Hellenized. They're following these damn Greeks and their way of life. And they didn't want to follow the Lord, right? So let's read this. Matthew 24:15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by the Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains, right? So 70 AD, right? It says over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution, right? Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. And that's what's gonna happen. It happened back then. Our people they faced starvation. Some of them revolt, like some of them went into cannibalism, like some of them went into damn cannibalism, right? Because the Lord judged our people, right? And it's gonna happen again. And the Lord's not going to do that to his elect, right? It says in destruction and famine, we're going to laugh, right? I think it's in Job 5. Job 5 and 1. Job 5 and 20. So it says 19. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles. Yea, so we're approaching we're approaching in like the 6th trouble. Yeah, in 7 there shall no evil touch it. So so this is the 7 is when the completion, when the when the Israelites, when the 144,000 is going to be beamed up, right, and protected. In famine he shall redeem thee. From famine he shall redeem thee, right? So the Lord's going to sustain his elect, right? When there's no food in the grocery stores, right? Like you won't be able to get certain things, right? But the Lord's going to make a way for his elect, the 144,000, man. In famine he shall redeem thee in famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of the destruction when it cometh. Right? So I'm gonna play another thing. 1 second.
When the Moors of Spain, namely in the region of Granada, were expelled from that region in 1492 due to their refusal to convert to Catholicism, a subsect of the Moors immigrated to...
Yeah, and that's what happened. It was called the Spanish Inquisition, right? That our people, their lands were taken, and they had the they didn't have a choice. They had to either choose that damn that Christianity or that Catholicism, which was Jake, right? Because the Moors was in power, right? The Jews and some of them were Muslims as well, right? And they were Israelites that were in power, right? That was fighting against the Knight Templars, which were Jake, right? Because they were under the damn Roman Catholic Church, right? And that whole Islam was set up by the Roman Catholic Church. Anyways, that whole Quran, right? That Quran was set up, right? Because Muhammad, right? His wife, right, was a Jesuit of the Roman Catholic Church, right? And Muhammad married Khadijah, right? And basically he, let's get into that. 1 second. Yeah, so this is from Babylon Timbuktu by Rudolf R. Windsor, which was a Jake Israelite who's a historian, right? So this is page 44. It says the birth of Islam. It says in the Roman Empire, at the birth of the Muhammad was divided into two parts: the Western Empire of the capital at Rome, and the Byzantine Empire, which is the capital of Constantinople. Right, so you had the Byzantine Empire, and then you had Jake that was in the, in the Western, right, in the going into England and Ireland, Scotland, right, Portugal, Spain, right? They were fighting for power. It says the Roman Empire in the West collapsed at 4076 AD after many barbarians raided and incursions but I'm going to just speed it up. With the defeat of the Jewish and Christian power in Arabia, it says the stage was set for the rise of a new power on the world scene. This new power was Arabia. So that whole Islam, right? That Islam means to submit, right? And that Muhammad, he was nothing but agent, right, of the Roman Catholic Church, right? And basically, let's go into Ishmael. 1 second. Ishmael. Because Ishmael got a blessing. Because remember, Ishmael is Abraham's son, right? His firstborn, right? But the Lord, when Sarah, when she got pregnant, right? The Lord, he said to Sarah that that you're going to conceive and have a son, right? So let's get Ishmael. Let's put wild. Yeah. Wild man. Sorry. I didn't have anything written down. 1 second. 1 second. Let's put the Ishmael wild man. 1 second. What's going on here? Ishmael. Genesis 16 and 12. Genesis 16 and 12. Sorry, Genesis 16 and 11. Right, so the angel, right? Because that's what they say in the Quran. They say it was Gabriel or something. Where it says, and the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord have heard thy affliction. So that was because remember, like Hagar was catching hell from her mistress, from her from Sarah, man. So basically, Sarah was, she was kind of jealous of Hagar, right? Because remember, Sarah wasn't able to bear children, right? So she gave, Sarah gave Hagar to Abraham, right? So so that's always been our custom, right? To be like polygamous, to have more than one woman. And he will be a wild man, right? So this is Ishmael. He will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, right? So these Ishmael, right? They're wild, right? Like through these different crusades, because they were fighting for the land, right? Because that whole Islam came on the scene, right? And and like that was when Ishmael got his, like the Ishmaelites got their blessing, man. They got their blessing, and they established that whole Islam, and they established these because they're nothing but idol worshippers. Right? I'm gonna bring it out after. And I will be a wild, and he will be a wild man. His hands will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. Right? So let's get into Galatians 4. Right? Galatians 4 and 21, bond and free, right? The subtitle. Tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do ye not hear the law? Right? So we are under the law, right? The Israelites, right? The Lord, he said he's only deals with the nation. This says Psalms, he's only dealing with the Israelites, right? Psalms 137, I believe. Let me bring it out. 137. Psalm 137, I think. Show of his. No, not 130, but he show of his words on the laws and statutes unto his the prophets, unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He has not dealt so with any nation, right? That's in Psalms. I'm kind of running out of time, but let's get back to Galatians 4 and 22. For it was written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid, right? Because Hagar, she was a servant, right? And the other by a free woman, because Sarah, she was of the same lineage, the same kindred, right? Um, Abraham and Sarah, they're close kin, right? So the Lord only was only dealing with Sarah, right? But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, right? So even though Ishmael came out first, but he that was of a free woman was promised, right? So the Lord, he promised, right? He you know, the Lord, he promised Abraham that, you know, his seed is going to be as the stars of heaven, right? You know, and he's gonna make a covenant with his children, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the 12 tribes, man. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? Which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth unto bondage, which is Hagar, right? So these damn Ishmaelites, they have their land, right? And now these damn Ishmaelites are in like they have the damn the Hajj that they walk around and all this shit, man. Right? They're nothing but idolaters, man. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children, right? Yeah, and basically the Lord's only dealing with the Israelites, right? He's only dealing with the children of Israel, right? And basically, like Jerusalem, that is our land, that is our birthright. This is our God-given land. But the Lord, right? He has a controversy with these nations, and he's going to start. He's starting this whole war, right? To try and he's going to start this war, and basically these nations are going to all be destroyed through thermonuclear fire, right? And when the elect is going to be beamed up in the chariot, we don't know how long they're going to be up in the chariot for, because they're going to be crowning ceremony and all these stuff, right? When they come down, the Lord's gonna set up New Jerusalem, man, and these nations are gonna go right back into slavery. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. So so Jerusalem, is the center of the earth, right? It's the you know, like this is the motherland, like Jerusalem, not Mama Africa. Jerusalem is our motherland, right? Which means city of peace, right? But I'm going to continue, and I'm going to play show you guys this too, from Babylon to Timbuktu, and you could get it as a PDF too. So from Babylon to Timbuktu, verse 44, the Arabian Empire with the new religion Islam, right? Islam means to submit. Established the structure of its culture on the ruins of the Roman Empire in the Middle East, Africa, and parts of Europe, right? And that's what they did. And Jake, they basically went, right, and they a lot of them went into that whole Islam, right, and they established mosque and all these different stuff, right, and there were a lot of Jews that was there over there in the Iberian Peninsula too, right, living in the same community, everything, right, that were Jews practicing the law, so this is a very great book. So it says, when Muhammad was born, many Arabs were still worshiping the sun, stars, or spirits, and idols. The Arabs, the Arabs possessed 360 idols, one for each day of the year. So they're nothing but idolaters. That's what the Lord said. The gods of the nations are idols, man. So Muhammad was born 5070 AD. 4 years after the death of Emperor Justine, he descended from the tribe of Quraysh and the family of Hashem, right? It said Hashem, right? So they say that Muhammad could be a Jake, but he could have been just an agent, right? To establish that whole shit, man. His mentality was like like prejudice. Or his mentality was like prejudice. In his youth, he was never taught to read or write, but imagination was superlative, right? So he never knew how to write the Arabic or nothing, right? Because a lot of Jews, they were diverse. They were able to trade and speak the Arabic, right? To speak the tongue, right? And they were able to network, right? So this part here says, on his business trips, he met Jews, Christians, and members of the other sects. He interrogated them concerning the tenets of their religion. He frequents the environment of the Jews and their rabbis, mostly because they were merchants and an omnipotent ethnic group, right? So they were very powerful, right? So Muhammad was very close with the Jews or rabbis, right? So because that whole Islam was to get the Ishmaelites from off our land, right? Basically, that's why that whole Crusades came, because you had like the Knights Templars, these different European orders that was under the whole Roman Catholic Church to establish Jerusalem and to get rid of the damn Ishmaelites. But Jake was there with the Ishmaelites fighting, going back and forth, right? And like that's why the Ishmael is still in our land, right? And then Amalek, because remember Amalek Amalek learned about the Jews, right? During 740 AD, right? Known as the Khazar Empire, because very good book to get to is the 13th Tribe by Arthur Koester, right? Which he's a damn Amalekite, a Jew, a Jewish guy, right? That whole Jewish shit, like that's a fucking new religion, man, right? Because they're following the thing called the Talmud. These people don't even follow even the Torah, man. All right, and they're Edomites. All right, let's play this quick.
Grand Rising, guys and goddesses, and as we were saying our native tongue, Pake Tekon, man. Look at this. Look at the picture, man. Jews acting like Moors. I'm saying, though, why everybody want to be a Moor in hidden, though? In hidden world, everybody want to be a Moor, but in public, don't nobody want to be a Moor. Everybody want to make
Yeah, that's it, man. So they're stealing our heritage, our birthright, man. All right, they're bastards, man.
Look like the Moors did this.
That's why the scripture says that a bastard is gonna dwell in Ashdod, man. Right, you guys, and the Ashdod is over there in like, Tel Aviv, right? And they're the biggest flamers.
Etc. But the Jews are acting like Moors because the code word for Jewish is Moorish or Moor. You see what I'm saying? The Jewel or Moors, meaning the hearts of Allah. The Quraysh from the court. The Jews, the priests of Anu.
Yeah, and then even right, I've been watching and doing my own little research, but I've been for years, like brother's been going back and forth in the Quran, and because the Quran, it has like a foundation because it's based upon the Torah and it's about the prophets, right? King Solomon, Job, Adam, right? So it does have a lot. It does have a lot of real uh, information that's based upon the Israelites, right? So you have to know what you're looking for, and the Holy Spirit has to guide you.
I think the Jews run everything right now because they portraying to be the Moors. Trying to portray to be the Moors. They wearing our vases, look, in the synagogue. They're not the Moors. They're not the real Jewels of Allah. No, they're not. That's why Allah said, woe unto those who claim themselves as Jews and they are not.
Yeah, that's Revelation 9 and 10.
They're portraying to be Moors.
Sorry, not Revelation 9. Revelation 3 and 9. Revelation 3 verse 9. So.
Inside their synagogue, which is inaccurate, injustice, and you keeping a secret from the people. And eventually, truth gonna subjugate the whole world, man, because in a minute, everybody gonna make that full circle right back at a Moor door. Because at the end of the day, the Moors civilized the world. The Jews know it, the Chinese know it, Russian know it, Chinese know it, Asian.
Yeah, so that's why Psalm 83. Psalm 83 says that they have taken crafty counsel against our people, right? So all the nations, they have conspired to put us, to not know who we are, not know these things, that we are the Israelites, right?
Know it, India know it, everybody know it but you. Over here in Northwest Maximum in
yeah,
the north.
all the nations know who we are, man. I want to play this next one. 1 second.
From that region and the Moors of Spain, namely in the region of Granada, were expelled from that region in 1492 due to their refusal to convert to Catholicism.
Yeah, and that was what happened there. 1492. Our people were being persecuted. Some of our people was being hanged and killed. Their lands taken, brought into slavery. Right.
A subsect of the Moors immigrated to parts of France, thereby becoming Huguenots, which was a religious sect who adhered to Protestantism. They consequently immigrated to America, namely in South Carolina, due to the event.
Yeah, and then that's why a lot of our people, they came to the New World, right, known as so-called cryptic or Jews, right? A lot of our people went to the East Coast. Some of them went to South Carolina. Some of them went into the Caribbean. Some of them went to Brazil, right, Suriname, right, throughout South America, and Jamaica as well. Because my family, my mother's side, my mother's side, they're the Costa, right. So and the Costas have a major rule, like major a big family, right. When you read about Mateus da Costa, he was known as a free man, that came to Canada with Samuel de Champlain, which he was a French explorer, right? That was working for the French and establish the New France, which is known as Quebec or Montreal, right? He was a founder, right? He taught because there was a big where the so-called natives, right, which were the so-called Gadites, right? They were able to speak because he was very fluent, right? Let's go into this. I don't want to seem like I'm making this shit up. Matthäus. Yeah, so it says Mateo da Costa, right? So Mateo da Costa was a African, right? He wasn't African, right? He was he's a Jew, Israelite, right? He wasn't from Africa. Afro-French member of the Exploring Party by Pierre Dogun and Sir de Mont and Samuel de Champlain that traveled from France to the New World, right? Because he was a big explorer, right? It says this is off the Wikipedia. It says, no, but let's read this one. It says Samuel de Champlain that traveled from France to the New World in the early 17th century. So, Matthew da Costa was a Moor, and he established this whole. He helped, he helped bridge the gap with the Gadites, right, and with you French, right? Because remember, Jake was ruling France, right? The kings of Europe. I think it was probably King Louis the 13th or the 14th that was ruling during that time. He was the first recorded free black person, so he wasn't a slave, right? Some of our people were in power throughout Europe, right? And I believe he was the first recorded free black person to arrive on the territory of today's Canada. It says there is little documentation about Matthew da Costa of a least partial African ancestry. He known to have been free man, right? So he was free. He was never a slave. Right? He's a Freemason because that's what it basically is. Favored by the explorers for its multilingual talents. No, it says so. He spoke many different languages. His portfolio of language is through to have included Dutch, English, French, Portuguese, Mi'kmaq, and the Pidgin dialect, right? So the Mi'kmaq, they were Gadites. The Pidgin dialect, that was like a Latin type dialect, right? That so the dialect many indigenous people use for trading purposes. All right, so let me play the rest.
It may not subsect of the Moors immigrated to parts of France, thereby becoming Huguenots, which was a religious sect who adhered to Protestantism. They consequently immigrated to America, namely in South Carolina, due to the eventual lack of religious freedom in France. In 1859, an American newspaper.
Yeah, and Jake had synagogues over there in South Carolina, right? There's a major synagogue that was set up by Jake, and some of them were of the Costa family too, right?
Paper article from the Vermont Gazette wrote about these Moors. The Moors. It may not be generally known that some of the best families in South Carolina are Moors by descent. The blood of the African soon washes out, but that of the Indian and of the Moor after a half score.
Yeah, so we were living with the Gadites, the Reubenites as one.
Generations shows itself almost as strongly as ever. The crisp, curling black hair, dark, sad eyes, long silken lashes and swarthy complexion, come up generation after generation.
Yeah, so swarthy, right? So he's dark skin, right?
Many of our old Huguenot families, down to the present day, show strong traces of their Moorish descent. When the Moors were driven out from Spain upon the conquest of Granada, thousands of them took refuge in the south of France, carrying with them the art of cultivating the vine.
Yeah,
and
so some of our people, they went into France too, right? Because when they left from 1492, some of them, they had to go to France, and then some of them went to England, then some of them went into the Holland or the Netherlands, right?
growing silk. Remembering their bitter persecutions in Spain, they could never become Catholics, though forced by their position to renounce
Yeah,
Muhammad.
because my family on my mother's side, my family's name is Da Costa, so my grandfather's father, right? He said that I was told from my grandmother that my mother's family, that their family originally came from like from Portugal, right? And a lot of our people, they came about, like some of our people came, during like the 13 and 1400s, you know. And basically it got intense, right? And our people came to the new world, right, to establish and to establish themselves and to network, right?
And become Christian.
Yeah, and basically they had the option to either choose to be killed or to convert to that whole Catholicism, right? So a lot of the Moors, the Jews, the Muslim, they had to go and basically go under the Roman Catholic Church, right? So it's like, so they weren't able to like teach their children, like, that we are the Israelite, that we're Jews, right? And follow that whole Caesar Borgia, right? That whole Renaissance Christianity, man, right?
Became eventually Protestants, and when the revocation of the Edict of Nantes took place, withdrawing toleration from the Protestant religion, they were again driven to seek new homes, and in large numbers emigrated to South Carolina.
Yeah, so when we get Job 9:24, then I'm gonna close, because I didn't want to go so long, but sometimes you gotta do that. Job 9:24 says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, right? Who runs the world? Who runs, these different industry? Who runs the banking industry, right? The Amalekites, right? You damn, you damn small hats, man. Right? You Rothschild, you Rockefellers, and DuPont, and all the different stuff, all the different leaders, and that's been in power for hundreds of years with an iron fist. The earth is given to the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof, right? So they know who we are. That's why the Russian president, right, Vladimir Putin, he brought out, like the images of the true Jews, the true Israelites, right? Let me just bring it out. Vladimir Vladimir, how do you spell it in there? Mir. Yeah, Vladimir Putin. Russian icons. You see what there is gonna be on the internet. Yeah, see? It's right here. You know, Like these are the Russian icons in Russia, man. So Jake has power. You know, we were ruling Russia, right? During like during the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages or the Golden Age. Jake was in power, man. All right. I'm gonna do a part 2 about Jake's in Russia. All right. About I'm gonna do a part 2, like that I'm gonna save it for the last. Alright. So the earth is given to the hand of the wicked, he covered the face of the judges thereof. If not, wherein who is he? Right? And that's what they did through his iconoclasm. Right? Ren no. Yeah, that Renaissance art, yeah. Yeah, he did it. He covered the face of the judge. So it's called iconoclasm, where there is a breaker at images, and that's what they did. They destroyed the images of the saints, of us, because we were in power, man, in Europe, right? And that's what they did, man. That's what they did. So this is gonna be I do a part 2, Lord, as well, maybe this week or maybe later, if the spirit's on me. So with that, let us all praise due to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Kakwadash, the one pastor great millstone, peace and blessing to the elect. Shalom.